Good morning, everyone. I would like to call to order the Select Subcommittee on Federal Impacts to Minnesotans and Economic Stability. Today is December 18th. Thank you all for joining us. Our conversation today centers around the economy and affordability for Minnesotans. Last night, Donald Trump gave what was supposed to be a speech on the American economy. He sort of got as far as "Good evening, America." Virtually every other sentence that Trump spoke was a deflection, a distraction, or an outright lie. The lies were mostly numbers. He said that inflation has stopped. Actually, it's 3% for the year, 50% above the target, and it's raising each of the last 5 months. Trump said prescription drug prices are down 600%. That's not true. It's also not possible. Trump said that the cost of a Thanksgiving turkey at Walmart came down 33%. Actually, the price went up 10% and the bird got smaller. He claimed gas prices are under $2.50 everywhere and $1.99 in some states. If you just drove here this morning, you know that's not true. For the distractions, Trump went to disgusting bigotry, attacking immigrants, transgender people, and Somali people in Minnesota. We know why he does this, why he changes the subject. It's because Americans know the truth of their lives, their household economy, and they're not happy. They know that the national unemployment rate is the highest it's been in 4 years, and in Minnesota, the highest it's been since 2020. Minnesotans know that tariffs are paid for by them, the consumer, or by the businesses that they're trying to run. They know wages aren't keeping up with housing, health insurance, or childcare. The Trump Republican economy is K-shaped, with all the gains at the top and all the struggle at the bottom. And it's not an accident. That's the plan. The only people who had a good year are a handful of tech CEOs and the billionaires inflating their stock bubble. Today we're going to talk about the rest of us, the Minnesotans trying to make ends meet, people who can't use fake statistics in a political speech to pay the bills. And I am looking forward to hearing from some small business owners in Minnesota, some farmers, and as well as folks from our grocery stores and our farmers markets. And we will start with North Star Policy Executive Director, Jake Schwartzer. If you want to come up, settle yourself at the table to give us sort of a broad economic outlook. And while you get settled, I will go to Senator Rasmussen quickly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I was wondering if you could help explain when the agenda for this committee was posted.
I unfortunately don't. Rachel Carlson, who's our usual CA, is out ill today, so I'm not sure when she posted it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I don't know if it has been posted. I think seeing it in our packets is the first time I've seen this. And again, Madam Chair, you talked about deflection and distraction, and I would ask that this committee reflect on, is this simply a way to deflect and distract and have a pure political committee? If you want to have a press conference, if you want to have a TikTok video to talk about your thoughts on what's going on in Washington, D.C., you're more than welcome to do that. But to have a committee hearing where it's been scheduled for weeks, but we don't have the agenda until we show up in front, doesn't comport to me that this is a serious effort to have a conversation about the challenges Minnesotans are facing, but it's more of a political exercise. And furthermore, Madam Chair, I was wondering if you could tell me how many committee hearings have Senate Democrats had on fraud this interim, on human services fraud?
Senator Rasmussen, a couple of those things. First of all, I don't think Minnesotans believe any of the conversations that we've had over the course of the last 3 months have been a political show. We've spoken to Minnesotans. We've been around the state. I know you haven't been able to join us for most of those, but we've been speaking to real Minnesotans about the issues that they're facing, and they've appreciated us coming to their communities and sharing their stories. As you said, this has been scheduled for weeks, and not a single Republican reached out with any questions about the agenda. It is normally posted very regularly. Unfortunately, our CA is out with illness this week, so I apologize if you didn't get it. But I do think that the testifiers that we have set up today are not a political show. They are here to share the real stories of Minnesotans. And so I look forward to hearing from them. I hope you all are listening as well, so we can understand the full impacts of the federal impacts here, which is what this committee is focused on doing. I don't sit on the Human Services Committee. I don't have authority to set any of those agendas. But what we can do is understand the full impacts before we go into session next year of the Trump policies on Minnesotans, and that's what we'll be focused on today. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And it's challenging for us to ask questions about an agenda that doesn't exist, right? We didn't know what was on the agenda for today. We didn't know who was going to come and speak, and so we were waiting. And I was asking our staff on a regular basis when we were going to have an agenda. But I would just say this, that this exercise, I think, shows why Senate Democrats are losing the confidence of Minnesotans. When the biggest issue that I hear them talking about is more than $1 billion in human services fraud of their tax dollars being stolen from them. And what we have on the agenda today is monetary policy and tariffs. And Madam Chair, I'd like to remind the committee that we are state legislators who come to St. Paul and are unable to vote on tariff policy. We're unable to set monetary policy. And so I would say that Minnesotans want us to focus on what we can control. And one of the big topics I hear from them is addressing this rampant human services fraud that we're seeing across the country. And so instead of having a political exercise here today where we don't give the agenda to the minority party until we show up and open our packets, that maybe we address the issues that Minnesotans have sent us here to do instead of trying to deflect and distract from the failures in St. Paul and trying to point fingers at Washington.
Thank you for your thoughts, Senator Rasmussen. I appreciate the concern of fraud. We are also hearing it. The Senate DFL majority has imposed more scrutiny and built more guardrails to stop fraud than any legislature in state history. And the Attorney General is aggressively prosecuting fraud when we find it. Republicans did nothing to strengthen these systems when they had the majority, and these aren't new. They have voted against almost every DFL proposal to strengthen accountability. It's easy to use those reports as political theater, as you say, but it's harder for Republicans to explain why you voted against almost every single one of those new protections. And I will also say Donald Trump has fired nearly 20 federal inspectors general and allowed unfettered access to our private data, which opens us all up to to being, defrauded. Your outrage over state-level issues is political and not constructive. If you think that we don't have a state response required for the federal policies that have come to our door over the last year, then I'm not sure what you're looking at. Minnesotans are worried about how they're going to afford Christmas dinner. They're worried about how they're going to afford their rent next month. They're worried about how their wages are not keeping up with health insurance, which, based on the Republican congressional vote yesterday, Republicans once again did not extend those tax credits. So Minnesotans will see their health insurance rise thousands of dollars next year. You might think that's a joke. I don't. I think it's very important. I think it's critical that we are looking at it. It's my job as a legislator to be prepared to go into next session to address the concerns facing Minnesotans, and these political concerns are certainly part of that. What is happening in Washington affects us here, and it is our job to learn as much as we can about that, which is why I am delighted to welcome you today, sir, to our committee and invite you to introduce yourself and begin your presentation when you're ready.
Great. Mic's on, great. Thank you, Chair Port, members of the committee. My name is Jake Schweitzer. I am the Executive Director of North Star Policy Action. We are a think tank that promotes data-driven solutions to help working Minnesotans thrive. I'm here today to lay out what we know about the Trump administration's impact on Minnesota's economy so far. From trade wars to funding cuts, from inflation to deportation, President Trump's first year in office and his return to office has been a shock to workers and businesses across our state. I'm going to paint a broad picture of his actions so far and what they mean to our economy. But a lot has happened this year, and this testimony will certainly miss things, but I'm going to hit the major points as I see them. Before I dig in, I want to emphasize that much of the impact on our economy hasn't even begun to hit yet. In today's hyperspeed media environment, we jump from issue to issue every day, sometimes every hour, but massive policy changes like we've seen this year take longer than a media cycle to be felt in our lives. Many of the largest changes that were made this year haven't even begun to be implemented in policy yet. And yet, even those that have kicked in take time to reverberate all the way through our economy. For example, tariffs are driving up the cost of building a new home. Minnesota has a housing shortage that hopefully isn't news to anyone on this committee. Fewer homes are being built, and those that are built will cost more to the home buyer. A higher mortgage means less money that a homeowner has to spend in their community, which means local businesses suffer. And the owners and employees of those businesses have less to spend in their communities, and that effect ripples outwards. These ripples take time, but they are starting now, and Minnesotans will be hurt as a result. This week, we received the latest jobs report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and the news isn't good. Nationally, job growth has flatlined. From November 2024 to November of this year, the economy added 930,000 jobs. That is the weakest year-over-year job growth into November in at least 16 years, not counting 2020, which is a dramatic outlier caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. At the same time, the unemployment rate has increased to 4.5%, the highest it's been in over 4 years, again, as we were recovering from the pandemic. Minnesota's unemployment rate is lower than nationwide at 3.7%, but this is a year-over-year increase from 3.1%. Among the largest shocks to our economy this year has been President Trump's dramatic and unpredictable global trade war. In a survey, 89% of U.S. CEOs say tariffs will impact their business performance. 40% of businesses report that tariffs have led to hiring freezes or declines. 67% of small businesses say tariffs have increased their costs. Customs and Border Patrol announced just this week that they've collected $200 billion in new tariffs this year. That's $200 billion paid by American businesses and consumers. That's $200 billion that isn't flowing through our economy anymore, through the businesses in your districts. And that doesn't even take into account the transactions that simply didn't happen because they no longer make business sense because costs have been driven up. Zooming in on Minnesota, 60% of tourism and hospitality businesses in Minnesota say tariffs have negatively affected their business. Border crossings from Canada to Minnesota peak each year in August. This year, we saw 20% fewer visitors crossing the border as compared to last year, the lowest number of crossings since at least 1996. Businesses in Minnesota consistently warn about how our growing worker shortage is holding our economy back. President Trump's violent deportation campaign will only make this problem worse. Although immigrants make up about 1 in 12 Minnesota residents, they comprise 1 in 9 workers, a disproportionate share of the labor force. Immigrant workers in Minnesota construction, health, and childcare are already sounding the alarm, warning that stepped-up enforcement is driving people out of the workforce and out of the state. If President Trump meets his stated deportation goals, this could cost Minnesota 7,000 jobs in the direct care sector, or 12% of the total direct care workforce. This will drive up costs for any Minnesotan who needs the services of direct care staff in their life, which is to say almost every Minnesotan. Research on the impact of deportations in direct care, child care, and construction consistently show that these jobs aren't backfilled by U.S.-born workers. They are simply lost to the economy. As a result of the violent deportation campaign in our state, consumers are staying home. Small businesses are reporting huge drops in customer traffic as neighbors are staying home out of fear of the aggressive enforcement actions taking place every day. You can read it every day in media reports. Carmel Mall is empty. Lake Street is a ghost town. If those businesses are forced to lay off workers, that effect is going to ripple through our economy. If they have to close altogether and stop paying rent, that effect is going to ripple through our economy. In July, Congress passed and President Trump signed his largest legislative achievement of the year, H.R. 1, his budget bill. This bill was a dramatic transfer of wealth from the working class to the wealthiest Americans. If we just look at the tax provisions in the bill, the richest 1% of Americans will see their taxes reduced by more than $91,000 annually. Those in the bottom fifth of earners in the country will see just $160 in annual benefit. Those in the next tier of income, the second poorest quintile, will see just $720. Again, that's compared to $91,000 for the richest 1%. But the real harm in this bill is the cuts. Because of this bill, 180,000 Minnesotans are projected to lose their health insurance by 2034. 106,000 Minnesotans may lose some or all of their SNAP benefits. Almost 6,000 jobs are at risk because of the loss of clean energy tax credits. The wealthiest 1% of Americans will see their incomes rise by 3.9% due to the tax cuts included in this bill. Meanwhile, those in the bottom fifth of earners will lose 7.4% of their income due to cuts in Medicaid, while seeing a rise of just 0.6% of their income due to the tax provisions in this bill. Ordinarily, supporters of cuts that are this harmful justify them as a sacrifice we must make in order to reduce the federal deficit. Not this time. The tax giveaways to the wealthy are so large, this bill will increase our debt by around $4 trillion. It's important to recognize that many of these cuts don't save money at all. They just push the cost off onto other payers. Next year, Minnesotans may pay up to $1 billion more in property taxes, much of that due to inflation, federal spending cuts, and new administrative burdens in programs like Medicaid and SNAP. I stated earlier that the budget bill will drive 180,000 more Minnesotans to lose their health insurance. Those people still need health care. They'll likely seek less preventative care, and that will hurt healthcare providers, especially those in rural Minnesota who are already working under razor-thin margins. But when they have serious needs, they'll still get them taken care of, often in the emergency room. And when they do, someone has to pay for that. We all pay for it. The rest of Minnesotans who are lucky enough to remain insured will see higher costs for our healthcare, which will drive insurance premiums even higher. Minnesotans are paying for it one way or another, but because of this bill, there will be increased human suffering. As I said previously, many of the impacts haven't started yet. The ACA subsidies expire at the end of this month. In 2 weeks, a 60-year-old couple making $85,000 in greater Minnesota will see their premiums jump by 256%, or more than $18,000 annually. I don't know a lot of family budgets that can absorb that kind of hit. New Medicaid restrictions begin later in 2026. Clean energy tax credits end in 2027 and 2028. The economic impacts from this one budget bill will continue to snowball. I'm very concerned about what happens when the hits to our economy keep piling up and we have a severely diminished social safety net to catch those who need support. Economists are clearly worried about federal policy and its impact on Minnesota's economic future. The recently released state budget forecast projects slower consumer spending and a, quote, historically low annual growth rate of business fixed investment. Tariffs, immigration, and increased healthcare costs are cited throughout the forecast of drivers of this decline. I also want to highlight a few non-budgetary concerns for our economy. Artificial intelligence is poised to dramatically disrupt our job market. Our own research at North Star Policy Action from over a year ago found that 500,000 Minnesota jobs are at risk due to AI. That ranks Minnesota as the 10th most threatened state. We're currently working to update that research, and I can only tease it for now, but the numbers are getting worse. Policymakers should be working together to find ways to balance business productivity with worker protections. But President Trump is instead seeking to stop any state from regulating AI at all. The Trump administration is also doing far less than previous administrations to protect working people. A new study this week found that wage and hour penalties have decreased 94% during Trump's second term, and workplace health and safety penalties have dropped 45%. We know wage theft is a disturbingly common crime, so it's concerning to see these critical worker protection enforcement actions drop so steeply. The most immediate threat to Minnesota's economic future emerges from federal policy shifts under the Trump administration. Federal cuts to critical programs such as medical and food assistance, freezes on essential climate infrastructure funding, and efforts to undermine organized labor pose substantial risk to our state's continued economic health. These policy shifts not only jeopardize the security and well-being of Minnesota's working families, but also threaten to dismantle the strong economic foundations we've built over recent years. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. I have a question for you.
Sure.
When you talk about the potential for up to 7,000 lost jobs in direct care due to the immigration enforcement actions that the Trump administration is taking. Can you also talk about like the long-term effect that that has on our state? It's my understanding that we have an aging Minnesota population, and that a not insignificant part of the growth of our state comes from international folks coming to relocate here. And I assume some of that is because of the immigrant communities that we already have. Can you just talk about what that might look like for the future of Minnesota's economy?
Absolutely. So the 7,000 jobs number, when we talk about numbers of this scale, it's easy to kind of gloss over. 7,000 jobs can, seem kind of ephemeral and cloudy, and what does that mean? It's 12%. It's more than a tenth of everyone working in the direct care workforce. If 12% of any workforce disappears, that is going to have a major impact on businesses and customers in that sector. In this case, customers are, again, anyone who needs direct care assistance over the course of their life, which is, as I stated earlier, almost every Minnesotan. In the case that you're not needing direct care assistance, it's probably because you, unfortunately passed away before aging into needing that care, and that's not a great thing either. Certainly there are far more numbers on economic impact that flow from that, and I would love to, dig into that and report back to you on what that looks like in terms of cost drivers in that sector. But this is something that should worry everybody, because this is a service that we all need, or your parents are needing, or someone in your family that you're caring for could need someday. So it should be a concern for every Minnesotan.
Thank you. Members, questions? Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for the testifier. Would you expect Minnesota's economy to be impacted any differently than any other state to some of the federal actions that are taking place?
Yes, so it depends on the impact. If you go to the source that we've cited on the direct care example that we were just referencing, Minnesota is one of the most impacted states listed by that researcher because of the makeup of our direct care workforce. So would be happy to, the link is in the footnote there, but you can follow up there further. But it depends on the cuts or the impact that we're talking about, because so much has happened this year. We try to differentiate Minnesota in our research. For instance, our research on AI shows that Minnesota is more at risk, 10th most workforce at risk among states in the country due to potential impact from AI. But we could go cut by cut here and compare how Minnesota is affected by those as compared to other states. It would vary.
Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess one of the concerns that I have as a state policymaker, and I see in Minnesota, I see in the numbers, is that the state of Minnesota, especially since 2019, when Governor Walz was elected, has really taken a back seat when it comes to growth compared to the rest of the nation. If you look at a report that was recently released by the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, the Business Benchmarks Report, Minnesota is 38th when it comes to GDP per capita annual growth, only at about a 1% growth rate. It's almost a full percentage point per year less than the national average. We also are 40th in terms of labor force growth, 41st in net domestic migration. We're losing taxpayers to other states on an annual basis. And when you look at our competitiveness as a state, from a tax perspective, the National Tax Foundation has Minnesota ranked 44th. And when we look even at education, Minnesota had long prided ourselves as being an education state, and we're seeing our statistics compared to other states fall. We're seeing reading scores in Mississippi surpass that of Minnesota. And I guess my encouragement for this committee and for the legislature with this session coming up is for us to grapple with why Minnesota is lagging behind the country. Many of these impacts that are being discussed today haven't had an impact on that. They're impacting all states. They're impacting Texas. They're impacting Iowa. They're impacting every state. But Minnesota is lagging behind. And I think we have to look at what we've seen under the Walz administration that's made Minnesota less attractive for families to come here, for entrepreneurs to come here, for people to invest. And that's something that we can do as a legislature. That's a bill that we can actually put forward and vote on and act as a committee. And I think that's where Minnesotans want us to focus our action.
Mr. Schweitzer?
Yeah, thank you for the points, and certainly all of those data points are worth addressing as a state. For this committee's focus, the concern I have is that the state of Minnesota is a donor state, meaning we give more, we pay more in federal taxes than we receive in federal benefits. And so as we see cuts, any cuts to federal programs, any cuts to federal dollars returning to our state, I get concerned about that getting even worse, that Minnesota is getting even less of a return from the federal government as we continue paying what we have. And so as we talk about education, as we talk about, that chamber report that you talked about, put a big emphasis on workforce challenges. Shutting down international immigration, scaring away immigrants who are here is not going to improve that problem, certainly. It's going to make it dramatically worse. So while I commend your focus on trying to improve all of these things, my answer is that a lot of the cuts and impacts that we've gone over here are going to make every one of those problems worse.
Thank you so much. Senator Uckey?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just a couple things that were mentioned here as you were giving your testimony that I guess I take, I want to just highlight. You had mentioned higher mortgage rates, mortgage rates going up, when in fact they're just opposite. The Fed rate has dropped 3 meetings in a row. It's going to drop more going forward. The mortgage rates are actually dropping. Tariffs are a good thing. I mean, what's going on? U.S. taxpayers have been footing the bill for the whole world. What's happening is bringing it back to a fairer playing field. And that is a good deal. Why should we be paying for everybody else's stuff? And it's not a fair playing field. And then we talk about the tax breaks for the top 1% in H.R. 1. H.R. 1, of course, is a continuation of the tax bill that was put back in 2017. It was about to expire. The top taxpayers actually pay more. It's the bottom tiers, the working people, that got the biggest tax breaks. Now, do the rich benefit? Yes, because when everybody's doing good and the economy is going well, it's growing, they make more money too. But to say that the top 1% are getting the tax breaks just frankly isn't true. And the last thing I just want to point out is the mention on property taxes. And if I'm looking at property taxes here in Minnesota, and everybody's getting their property tax statement now and it's just gone through the roof, that has nothing to do with what's taking place in Washington, D.C. That has everything to do with Democrat policies that have been put in place over the last 3 years. So I just want to clarify some of those things that have been, in my, at least my line of thinking is they've been misrepresented, but thank you.
Mr. Schweitzer?
Yeah, if I can respond to each of those points. So you talk about mortgage rates. I wasn't referring to mortgage rates. I was referring to an overall mortgage. So tariffs are, in fact, driving up the cost of building a home. There are tariffs on building construction materials. That drives up the cost of buying lumber, of buying any material it takes to buy a home. That makes it more expensive to build that home. As a home is more expensive to build, it's more expensive to buy. So when I was referring to mortgages going up, I was referring to the actual mortgage itself, not a mortgage rate. It's more expensive to buy a home as a result of tariffs. You referred to tariffs and their relationship to Americans paying to build things in other countries. I think those are two very unrelated issues. What tariffs have done, as reported by Customs and Border Patrol this past week, is they have pulled $200 billion out of our economy. That has nothing to do, those aren't $200 billion that were going to be going to other countries, in foreign aid, or I'm not sure what you were referring to. That's $200 billion that I, as a consumer, that some of the business owners that you're going to hear from today are paying in higher costs if they're importing a good. As for the point on tax fairness in the bill, I've got plenty of citations here. I think every economist I have seen has shown that the tax benefits under H.R. 1 were dramatically skewed towards the rich, and in fact the richest 1%. So I would love to share more of those sources with you on where those numbers are coming from. And then on the property taxes piece, I'm taking that directly from county officials who are reporting that they are having to increase their property taxes or propose increasing their property taxes in their counties as a result of federal actions. That's coming directly from them. I'm not making that up, pulling that out of thin air. That's coming directly from county officials who have spoken to the media. So.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Schweitzer. Senator Utke, I heard from my county saying huge impact on property taxes just on the new requirements related to SNAP, related to Medicaid, related to the new bureaucratic stuff that's being required by Washington. They say that that's going to have a several % increase in property taxes, just that one impact. But the thing I wanted to focus on is something I think the chair mentioned also, but you had mentioned, I think it was 7,000 lost jobs in direct care. You said that's 12% of the workforce? Because, I mean, I just see what assisted living facilities, nursing homes and so on, what they've been struggling with now. They've already been struggling to get employees. So, but I'm wondering, other sectors of the economy, our colleague John Hoffman put in a post in the other day about going to a coffee shop in Brooklyn Park, and doors were wide open, coats there, money on the counter, he said, and nobody in the place. And he called the mayor, he called the police to secure the building, and the mayor said there had been an ICE raid and they took away the 2 owners. And he was saying, are these the worst of the worst people? We got to get them out of our country, small business owners and so on. But I'm wondering, in terms of small businesses, retail businesses, coffee shop types of things, in terms of agriculture and so on, the loss of workforce, is it, when you said 12% of that one workforce, I assume it's not nearly as much for others, but what is the impact on agriculture, on small business in general and so on?
Mr. Schweitzer?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for the question. I think you'll hear from some of those sectors in a bit here who can speak more specifically to those sectors. But you're right, the direct care sector, the 12% figure, that is a sector that is disproportionately made up with immigrant workers. So that is a sector that is hit particularly hard, as is childcare, as is construction. These are sectors that are routinely pointed to as most impacted by immigration issues. But as you talk about, again, I want to paint a picture of that effect rippling out. So as a worker, disappears from direct care, they're no longer making that money. They no longer have the money to make to spend in their community. That hurts businesses in their community. For the empty businesses in Carmel Mall or on Lake Street, because customers aren't showing up, because immigrants, undocumented and documented, are afraid to be out in public right now because of the violent, aggressive actions of the federal government taking place. Again, what does that mean to that business? What does that mean to that business's employees that no longer, if they're having to cut hours, that employee doesn't have that money to spend in their community anymore? That hurts other businesses. If that business goes under and they're not paying rent, that hurts the commercial tax base. The commercial tax base has to be made up somewhere in our property taxes. As a homeowner in Minneapolis, that's gonna redound on me eventually in the future. So these ripples take a while to make their way out through our economy, and every ripple is further pain.
Madam Chair, that's partly what worries me, that all of these ripples together make a tidal wave of problem. And when you mention whether documented or undocumented immigrants, I had dinner with a friend of a friend recently who's an immigrant. almost half a century and been a citizen for most of that time. He pulled out his wallet to show me how scared he is. He pulled out a passport card. He said he got one this year because he's never felt the need for anything like that, but he's scared if he's picked up by somebody, how does he prove that he's, I mean, this is a 50-year, close to 50-year American citizen saying, I'm scared now. And so people like that, he's out of the workforce now because of age and retirement, but people who are saying, hey, I'm scared to go to work, I'm scared to send my kids to school. I mean, that's what worries me. People who don't have any problems with anything, people who are documented, people who are everything else, they're still scared, so they stay away, which worries me about the workforce shortage. Because I think we keep talking about creating new jobs. I think that's a problem, but at the same time, we have, in many sectors of the economy, a bigger problem of workers. And I'm scared that this is a ripple effect, whether they're citizens, whether they're not citizens, whatever, that just plain employers are going to be struggling even more in many parts of the economy.
Yep.
Mr. Schweitzer?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question. Yeah, workforce challenges are routinely cited among businesses as a top concern. And I think you're right to be concerned that this is going to make the problem worse, as we see in our data. You know, one of the biggest economic markers economists look at is consumer sentiment. I don't think it's unfair to say that consumer sentiment is going to be damaged when consumers are afraid to leave their home and go to a shop. That is poor for consumer sentiment when there's literal, visceral fear to be in public. So that is going to have an economic impact.
Senator Kupak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of questions, starting with on manufacturing. Manufacturing Minnesota came up. They did a presentation in my district, and they were talking on the, they kind of surveyed manufacturers what they were worried about, and within that survey, they found that the smaller businesses, 30 maybe employees or less in that manufacturing sector, those were the ones that were having the most struggles with tariffs, because larger businesses, some of them could easily we'll just buy up more supply, and we have the capacity to just sit on that. Maybe we can ride this out till they go away. But it's those smaller 31 or less. Also, maybe they don't have the capacity within their organization to make strategic changes looking far ahead. So I'm just wondering whether any of the research that you've done has also looked at that, have seen that division within the manufacturing community.
Mr. Schweitzer.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question. Senator Kupak, I would love to follow up with you on the manufacturing data. I don't have it in front of me, but the numbers are down. They're bad. And I think the point that you made is an interesting one, because much of the public justification for this dramatic increase in tariffs, worldwide, it's a global trade war, is to, the justification coming from the Trump administration is to, bring back manufacturing, to protect American manufacturing, and it is having the exact opposite effect. These are global supply chains that manufacturers rely on, and any hit to that supply chain is going to make their businesses, especially for a smaller manufacturer, harder to compete with the big guys. And these are not small hits. These are not small tariff numbers that are being put, depending on, where you're importing from. Again, the numbers I referred to, the $200 billion in total tariffs, new tariffs collected this year, doesn't take into account the transactions that aren't occurring anymore, because it doesn't make business sense. $200 billion is a huge number out of the economy, and I would love to find, and I don't have a source for how can we document the transactions that simply aren't happening because it costs too much? And that's the major ripple we're going to start to see hitting the economy this year and next. Senator
Kupak, follow up.
Thanks. Slightly different topic. You brought up, and I'm very thankful that you brought up the subject of tourism. when you go around in my district, Moorhead and Fargo, and you go to retail stores on the weekend, normally those parking lots are filled with cars with Manitoba plates on them because they love to come down and do their shopping down here. And you can visually see when you're out, there are fewer Manitoba plates. And as a matter of fact, our Convention and Visitors Bureau said that our Canadian visitors to our area is down 33%, which funny, exactly matched up to the percent fewer people that have gone to our local historic museum, and they also have seen the decline of Canadian visitors coming down. Partly, they're just mad at us too. When you go up to Canada, they're not happy with us. On that, is there on the tourism front, is there any kind of breakdown? I mean, obviously, at one point I remember the Mall of America was a huge draw for foreign tourists to come here. Is there a breakdown within the state of how that looks? Is it evenly distributed? Is it more certain sectors that have been hit more by the lack of visitors from other countries coming here?
Mr. Schweitzer.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the question. That's not a number I have in front of me. I'm sure it's something we can find. There's probably state agencies we can work with to document that, what sectors and certainly what regions of the state rely most on tourism. But as I said, the number that I came prepared with today is that border crossings in the peak month of August we're down 20%. This past year as compared to the previous year. That's just in 1 year. That's a major impact, especially for the border communities. This is vehicle passenger traffic, so this isn't taking into account airplane traffic, which is going to be even larger numbers, have a bigger impact on things like the Mall of America and other sectors. So that's something I can try and follow up with you on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schweitzer. We look forward to following up with you on that. Members, we do need to move on. We appreciate your testimony today. Our next testifier is Winston Berkman-Breen. Mr. Berkman-Breen, you are on Zoom. I can see you now. If you can just unmute, introduce yourself for the record, and present your testimony.
And can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Well, good morning. Thank you so much, Chair, members of the committee, for the opportunity to testify. My name is Winston Berkman-Breen, and I'm the legal director at Protect Borrowers, a national nonprofit policy, advocacy, litigation, and research organization. We're focused on fighting to protect the economic stability of working families and to build an economy where debt doesn't limit opportunity. So the United States is in the middle of an affordability crisis. Over the last 5 years, average prices have increased by 25%. However, we know that this is just the tip of the iceberg. For decades, the largest bills for most families, housing, childcare, healthcare, education, have all risen significantly faster than inflation and wages. As a result, wealth inequality has also been rising for 50 years. Today, more families are being forced to go into debt to pay to keep a roof over their heads, keep the lights on, and keep food on the table. And President Trump's economic policies are only making things worse. Even with just the one big, beautiful bill, H.R. 1, we see cuts in investments in clean energy that would have made energy cheaper for households. Minnesota families who depend on Medicaid or who buy health insurance on the ACA exchange see massive hikes in healthcare costs. And students who will have to borrow more for their education will end up paying more on those loans that they take out to finance their education. All the while, tariffs are raising the cost of goods across the country. And the president is actively dismantling government agencies that play an important role in safeguarding our wallets. So taken together, this administration is pouring fuel on an already raging affordability crisis. And I'm going to use the remainder of my time today to drill down on some of these topics. So polling conducted by Protect Borrowers and the Groundwork Collaborative earlier this year provided a granular look at how households are being trapped in the cycle of debt. The poll found that 1 in 4 households owe a debt to a utility company, 1 in 6 went into debt to cover rent, and nearly a quarter said that they would need a windfall, such as an inheritance or a winning lottery ticket, to ever get out of debt. The poll found that more than half of Americans carry credit card debt, which in total aggregates to $1.23 trillion nationwide. In the last year, nearly 40% of Americans have had to resort to high-interest credit cards to cover bills and pay everyday essentials like groceries and rent. And according to the AARP, half of older Americans are charging everyday purchases like gas, food, and healthcare expenses or utilities on their credit cards. So not only are Americans being forced to put things on credit to make ends meet, more Americans are going into the red as a result. Over 12% of credit card debt is 90 days or more past due, which is a delinquency rate approaching the level we saw immediately after the Great Recession over a decade ago. Making matters worse, fintech companies are offering risky and high-cost buy now, pay later products and are profiteering on the backs of working families trying to make ends meet. The same Protect Borrowers poll from earlier this year showed that nearly 1 in 3 Americans have taken out a BNPL, buy now, pay later, loan to make ends meet. Our poll found that of those borrowers, 1 in 4 resorted to buy now, pay later to pay their rent, 1 in 3 resorted to buy now, pay later for groceries or medical care, and 1 in 3 resorted to buy now, pay later to pay off another debt. At the same time that Americans are increasingly relying on debt to finance their everyday lives, President Trump has defanged the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the sole federal agency charged with protecting working families from predatory financial companies seeking to profit on the affordability crisis. From 2023 to 2024, there was a 72% increase in complaints from the Minnesota residents to the CFPB. However, one of the first things that the Trump administration did when it took office earlier this year was attempt to close the agency. It has tried to fire virtually every CFPB employee, leaving no one to look out for American households, and is currently starving the agency to death by letting its operating budget deplete. Even though so many households rely on credit cards and are behind, the Trump administration agreed to vacate the CFPB's credit card late fee rule, which would have capped late fees at $8, down from $30. That rule, before it was vacated, was expected to save an average of $220 per year for over 45 million users. As if that weren't enough, the Trump administration is actively undoing settlements and financial penalties that have already been secured against financial institutions that ripped off Americans. A report we co-authored this summer showed that the Trump CFPB was returning or canceling as much as $360 million in compensation for people who'd been harmed by illegal conduct back to banks or other financial firms. A growing number of Americans are also struggling to keep up with the rising cost of utilities. According to a report we recently published with the Century Foundation, since 2022, the utility costs such as electricity and gas have spiked by 35%, nearly 3 times the rate of inflation for that same period. And it's getting worse. Nearly 1/3 of that 3-year increase has taken place over the past 2 quarters. Across Minnesota, utility costs have increased by 23%, with Minnesotans paying an average of $2,770 on their utilities every year. As these costs have gone up, so too have the number of households fallen behind. Across the nation, 1 in 20 households, or 14 million, are so severely behind on their utility bills that they are at risk of or are currently experiencing collections. Across the state, more than 21,000 Minnesota households are severely behind on their utility bills with an average balance of $560. Now, these are not luxury goods. Energy and utility bills are core expenses in a family's budget. The sharp spike in monthly utility bills and rising utility debt balances serve as a warning that a growing number of households simply cannot keep up with their basic necessities and are falling into debt as a result. Instead of increasing investments in renewable and clean energy projects that could lower consumer energy costs, we've seen the Trump administration abandon these investments while prioritizing more expensive fossil fuel projects. There was just a lawsuit last month from Minnesota about the abandonment of these investments and grants that were cut. All the while, with the explosion of AI data centers and the growing demand for energy that they require, household utility bills are going through the roof. Instead of regulating these companies or helping states develop plans to support economic development without taxing their energy systems and spiking utility costs, the Trump administration is paving the way for AI. Last week, the president issued an executive order seeking to preempt any state efforts to regulate AI and to punish states that attempt to protect their residents from the harms this industry can cause. But that's not all. I'd be remiss if I did not mention the growing number of Americans who are also struggling under the $1.8 trillion student loan debt crisis. Across Minnesota, there are more than 789,000 student loan borrowers who collectively owe over $31 billion in student loan debt. Although anyone seeking to go to college will now face steeper prices and less affordable financing due to Trump policies, I want to focus on how the administration has made repayment more expensive and complicated for current borrowers. Instead of fixing the broken student loan system or holding student loan servicers accountable, the Trump administration took steps to eliminate the SAVE repayment plan, which was the most affordable repayment plan to date and on which 131,000 Minnesota borrowers were already enrolled. And through the One Big Beautiful Bill, H.R. 1, it's replacing the entire suite of current repayment plans with only two options that'll be more expensive. According to our analysis, a typical borrower can expect to pay $4,168 more per year under the new repayment assistance plan that H.R. 1 created. The administration is also resuming forced collections on student loan borrowers who have fallen behind, placing them at risk of having their entire tax refunds offset and their wages garnished and even their Social Security benefits taken. More than 5 million borrowers are currently in default, and we estimate that number will jump to 10 million in the coming months. This default cliff will be disastrous, not just for the working families directly affected, but also for the broader economy. For borrowers who want to avoid falling into default or get out of default, their requests for help are falling on deaf ears. The administration is proudly and publicly gutting the U.S. Department of Education, including the Office of Federal Student Aid's Ombudsman program, which is supposed to help borrowers in distress and to help them navigate difficulties with their student loan servicers. Now borrowers have no option. Between that and the shuttering of the CFPB, we've been recommending people ask their members of Congress for help. This administration is fanning the flames of the affordability crisis in many other ways. For example, cuts to the SNAP program will make it harder for the over 440,000 Minnesotans who rely on these nutrition benefits. The One Big Beautiful Bill's cuts to Medicaid programs will result in 140,000 Minnesotans potentially losing their health insurance coverage, and without congressional action to extend the ACA healthcare subsidies that expire soon, 62% of those enrolled in exchange plans will see their premiums skyrocket. These policies will cement financial distress for working families for years to come, and it's clear that solutions to the affordability crisis are not coming from the administration in D.C. Protect borrowers, we stand ready to work with policymakers at all levels of government to come up with solutions for working households. So thank you again for the chance to testify, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Members, if you can hold your questions for this testifier, our next testifier has a deadline that she needs to leave for, so we're going to jump directly to her and hear from her, and then we'll be able to come back and answer questions with Mr. Berkman-Breen. So Jessica Peterson-White, if you can turn on your camera, thank you for your patience. Go ahead and unmute and introduce yourself when you're ready and present your testimony.
Thank you so very much. Good morning, and thank you to you all for hearing my testimony today. My name is Jessica Peterson-White, and I own Content Bookstore and Kids Content, a toy store in Northfields. We're a small independent retail shop. We carry books, toys, games, stationery, and like most small town retailers, a wide variety of other things our community wants and needs. I'm here today to speak to the reality of what my small business has faced this year, and I'm grateful to all of you for taking the time to listen. I know that everyone in this room would like to be able to tell their constituents that they support small businesses and understand our needs, knowing, as I know you do, that small business is one of the most important engines of our economy in Minnesota. I hope you'll listen to what I have to say and consider what our government can do to help us thrive or even just survive in these conditions. I'm a local elected official myself. I serve on the Northfield City Council, and I understand the challenges of considering policies that may be beyond your purview, but I think it's, of course, always important to understand what's happening with businesses in your communities and their customers as well. I'm taking time out of a super busy day running a toy store the week before Christmas. It's a critical time for my business's success to share these experiences because I believe your work is really important and I want to do what I can to inform that work. So thank you for hearing from me.
Thank you.
My shop, yes?
Go ahead.
My shop, like most that sell toys and related products, has had a profoundly challenging year. Our customers and our community are very supportive. My employees are dedicated and extremely capable, and after 11 years, we're still growing. But the effect of the federal government's trade policy is felt every day in my shop. Beginning in March, when these massive tariffs that were unvetted by any legislative process were announced on goods from countries around the world, it's been practically impossible to plan my inventory, which is the tool that I need in order to ensure my business is profitable, to anticipate costs accurately, or to ensure that my customers will have a reliable selection of products that they want to buy at prices they can afford. Lawmakers in Washington are claiming that these tariffs are going to be paid by foreign governments. We've even heard today that this is a great way to make sure other countries are paying something, but I have a stack of invoices on the desk in my stockroom that proves that that is not how tariffs work. Many, many, many invoices, dozens and dozens of invoices that are in my filing cabinet or sitting on my desk right now waiting to be received from. Almost all of those invoices from other small businesses, toy creators who have invented a new fidget or a game, or family-owned businesses some of them have dedicated themselves for decades to making safe, fun toys for children. These invoices include a line item tariff surcharge. It is written on the invoice. Those tariff surcharges range from 9% up to 15%. I've even seen 20% and higher on some invoices that I am receiving and I am paying. If anyone would like to see those or the receipts that show that I paid those tariffs, not China, please feel free to contact me at my shop. I'd be more than happy to share. My initial markup on products that I bring into the shop and then share with my customers is generally in the neighborhood of what retailers call keystone, meaning that we double the wholesale price to get the retail price of an item, more or less. And that's pretty common in independent retail. That margin of 50% is pretty much exactly how much we need to cover our payroll, rent, and other expenses, supplies, and things like that, snow removal. So as an example, if a ball like this one, this little playground play ball, which last year we sold for $15, if the price of this goes up at wholesale by 30% overnight, which it did earlier this year with the new tariffs on products from China, that means that I would need to sell this for $20 in order to maintain the margins I need for my business to work. Most of my customers, it turns out, think $20 is too much for this ball. I do too. They don't have 30% more dollars to spend on holiday gifts this season. The vendor that makes this ball chose to handle the tariffs they paid when their product came into the US by raising their prices. Other vendors have simply held their product in China for months on end, putting their own businesses on hold, or they've implemented these tariff surcharges instead of price increases. And some of my vendors have gone out of business entirely, leaving holes in my inventory. So I've spent the year scrambling in many ways to find alternative products to bring to my customers when a vendor has gone out of business or has canceled a whole wave of new releases because the tariffs made the product unsellable at the new price. I've scrambled to cut costs in every way that I can in order to try to absorb as much of these price increases as I can to keep my products affordable for customers. I've reorganized my inventory to focus on product lines that are less affected by tariffs, which are very hard to come by. These challenges are not unique to Content Bookstore. Every retailer in Northfield's beloved downtown shopping district is facing these challenges to some degree, and almost every kind of product that Minnesotans want and need to buy is affected at some point in its supply chain. I'm exhausted, to be honest. My store is full of holiday shoppers today, and my staff are hustling heroically to help them find just the right thing for each kid on their list within their budget. And it is so much harder than it needs to be. And it is more expensive for my customers than it needs to be because of the unnecessary chaos these policies have created. As a retailer that carries both books and toys, I have a clear view of the options the federal government has to ensure that my community can access the products they need. Because books on the whole are exempt from tariffs because they're considered educational products. Toys do not enjoy this exemption. I think all of us can agree that all kinds of toys, from a set of wooden blocks for a toddler to maybe a soft indoor basketball for a teenager who's stuck inside in January, those things are essential for kids' healthy development, just like books are. Yet these products are being treated as if they're unnecessary luxuries which families can do without. The customers in my store today would beg to differ. If these policies were based on any kind of rational analysis or goals, this would have been considered. There would also be resources in place to help my vendors move their manufacturing to the US or to help me find domestically made alternatives that my community can afford. But this federal trade policy is arbitrary, it's ill-considered if considered at all, and it's blind to the needs of American families. It's been incredibly destructive. It's been destructive in my community and for my business, and I guarantee each of you legislators, it has been destructive for businesses in your communities. If you walk up and down the main street in your community and tell folks that these tariffs are a good thing, I think you might hear a different tune. The only result of this trade war is to create opportunity for leverage and graft on the part of huge businesses and other wealthy players in our global economy, and to damage the prospects and prosperity of small businesses here in Minnesota and across the country. Thank you so much for listening and for your attention to these complex issues today. I am very grateful.
Thank you so much for taking time out of what is an incredibly busy time for you and for your store to share your stories. I think it is really helpful for us to hear directly from our communities to know what these impacts are. Members, before we let Ms. Peterson-White get back to her real work, do we have any questions for her? Thank you so much for your testimony. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good luck with the holiday season.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to take questions if people have any.
Okay. Seeing no questions, we'll go back to Mr. Berkman-Breen. Senator Rasmussen, did you have a question? Okay. Any questions for Mr. Berkman-Breen? All right. Seeing none, we will move to our next small business owner, Beth Beneke from Busy Baby. Welcome to the committee. Make yourself comfortable at the testifier table, and when you're ready, just please introduce yourself for the record and present your testimony.
All right, thank you so much. I am Beth Beneke, for the record. Before I begin, I'd like to point out that this is not a show for me, sir. This is a serious impact to me as a Minnesotan, is why I'm here. I am not a Republican, I am not a Democrat. I am a Minnesota business owner who is impacted by federal policies, and I'm here to tell that story. So I do thank you for the opportunity to testify. Again, my name is Beth Beneke. I am the wife of the 6th-generation family crop farmer in Olmsted County. I am a 10-year Army veteran, a Minnesota small business owner, and just weeks before Liberation Day, I was named 2025 SBA Small Business Person of the Year for Minnesota. Liberation Day and tariff policies have nearly destroyed everything I have spent the past 8 years building. My husband's farm business has been impacted as well. These past 9 months have been filled with crippling uncertainty for our small Minnesota businesses. I founded Busy Baby in my kitchen, inventing patented products that solve a universal parenting problem, babies constantly dropping and throwing literally everything in front of them. Over the 8 years I've been in business, when I had this idea, I have gone from my basement to a 7,000 square foot facility in Zumbrota. I've made the Inc. 5000 list twice. I secured contracts with Target and Walmart. I've created jobs with full benefits. I've reached 7-figure revenue in the first 2 years. I now mentor other entrepreneurs and support other Minnesota small businesses through my service on the boards of 2 Minnesota nonprofits that helped me start my company. I have been living what I thought was the American dream. This year, tariffs on my products jumped from 0 to 145%. On April 7th, I had inventory I had already paid for sitting in China that I literally could not afford to bring home. I abandoned it there for 8 weeks, praying that the tariffs would drop. They finally came down to 30%, which was survivable, but the damage was already done. June through September of this year has been catastrophic. In addition to the $40,000 I paid in tariffs, our total revenue loss is estimated at well over $500,000, and that's conservatively. In order to stay in business this year, I've had to cash in my retirement. I didn't pay myself for 4 months. I have blown through all of my family savings. I've had to end contracts with multiple other American-owned small businesses who supported my business. I had to let go of my brother, who's also a veteran, who helped me run this business and grow this business. And now my warehouse is up for sale. I am now forced to consider bankruptcy in a year that was forecasted to be my best year ever. Now, one of the original goals of Liberation Day was to bring manufacturing back to the United States. I spent all summer searching for American manufacturers. In the end, my business is simply just too small. The few American manufacturers that had the capabilities to produce my products require massive production runs, well beyond the quantities I sell or could afford. Since I manufacture relatively low-cost items, these factories need to produce large volumes in order to make a profit and make their business plan work. Production costs would more than double, making my products unaffordable for young families. Even if I found a U.S. manufacturer, setting up domestic manufacturing requires me to pay more than $100,000 up front, takes about 6 to 12 months, and requires those crazy high minimum order quantities that I can't afford. And the raw materials are still imported and still tariffed. So to be clear how tariffs work, the importer of record pays a tariff, not the other country. So even when American manufacturers bring in the materials they use to manufacture products, they are the ones who pay the tariff, not the other country. So in this same year that I was named Small Business Person of the Year by the SBA, I have also had to launch a GoFundMe to try to save my business. The community responded, and on July 22nd, the tariff was paid and my container finally arrived. The GoFundMe saved my inventory, but it did not save my business. 2 months of lost sales, years-long business partnerships ended, accumulated debt, lost customer trust. My brother, going back to his old job, puts the entire workload of the business on me. And now my warehouse is again running on empty because of the uncertainty of tariffs remains as we wait for the Supreme Court decision. In a normal year, I would have shipped more inventory a month ago, but I followed my normal business plan today. I'd end up paying that 30% that's currently in place on top of my production costs. If SCOTUS rules that the tariffs are illegal, I won't have to pay that. So I've been waiting. This time the bill will cost me $48,000 on top of my production fee. Now the real serious impact, and what I hope that you guys will hear from me today, is another side of this insanely uncertain year that I need to share that most business owners won't. 3.5 years ago in 2022, the pressure of owning a business and having 2 small children led me to a mental health breakdown and suicidal crisis. Being an entrepreneur is hard in a normal economy, and as a mom of 2 young boys, life was hard too. Out of nowhere, unthinkable thoughts began to enter my head. I sought help, and I found out that the situational depression I was experiencing was due to prolonged stress. I found ways to manage that stress. I got counseling, and I formed a self-care routine that keeps me sane. But when Liberation Day hit and the reality of having to pay a 145% tariff sank in, I feared the worst for my business. Overnight, with the stroke of a pen, one person was going to wipe out my business, and there was nothing I could do about it. No notice, no backup plan, no support. We all knew that tariffs were coming, but 145%? That was insane. The first thought I had, at least I still have my life insurance, so my husband and my kids will be okay. I didn't know how devastating the effect of the tariffs would have been. But I knew that there was no way I could survive it. I had 2 containers ready to leave China on April 9th. The tariffs went to 145 on April 7th. Had I not pulled back that inventory and left it in China, I would have had 30 days to come up with $230,000, or my products would have been stuck at customs, and I would have never gotten them. So, at the time, I had leveraged my house against a loan to buy inventory for the new Walmart and Target contracts I just got less than 12 months ago. That was a huge risk, one that is not recommended, but I couldn't give up the opportunity to get my products into the 2 biggest retailers of baby products in the U.S. I did what small business owners do. I had faith in myself and my business and put my house on the line. The tariff crisis didn't just threaten my business, it threatened my life. How many other Minnesota small business owners are suffering in silence because federal policy created impossible situations overnight? Beyond my business, my husband is a 6th-generation farmer. The China negotiations came too late, so our soybean crops were already sold at lower prices, and the farm took a loss. The tariffs have also affected the equipment we needed during critical harvest months. Parts became nearly impossible to find. We found what we needed. They were more than expected cost-wise. We had a critical breakdown, our soybean header. The part was in Germany because the parts dealers weren't bringing in the expensive parts, because why would they bring them in and pay the tariffs if the part wasn't guaranteed to sell that season? The real killer isn't just the tariffs, it's the unpredictability. How can anyone plan to run their business when tariffs jumped from 20% to 145 down to 30%. Now, if the Supreme Court rules the IEEPA tariffs illegal, our president has vowed to find other ways to put them in place yet again. I can't plan inventory, I can't set prices, I can't make hiring decisions, I can't invest in growth. Even now with the tariff on goods from China at 30%, I can't afford to bring in my next container. Now I want to reiterate, these are not cheap Chinese goods. These are my patented inventions. I simply make them in China because I can't get them made here. As a 10-year Army veteran, I love my country, and I would absolutely make my products here if it made sense. Every other aspect of my business, every single expense contributes to our American economy, our American job force. Despite everything, I am still fighting. I'm here today. I've given press briefings on Capitol Hill, 2 with Senator Klobuchar. I've worked with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, appeared on CNN, BBC, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, national media. I have an interview with Newsweek in an hour. I've expanded my business into South Korea, Australia, Europe, Czech Republic, not because I want to abandon my American customers, but because I have no choice. An American business built by an American veteran selling American-invented products to American families now depends on international markets to survive because American trade policy makes it impossible for me to serve America profitably. Now, I know we are just Minnesota. We are not impacting federal decisions here, but you need to understand how these policies are affecting your Minnesota residents and your Minnesota small businesses. You have the power to demand better policy. I'm asking you to use it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Beneke. Members, questions? Senator Kupek.
I don't know if it's a question, Madam Chair, or more than a comment, but thanks for coming and, first of all, sharing your story. And you're exactly right. These are all of the things that, as Minnesota legislators, we need to know when we're crafting policy this coming session, how our Minnesota businesses are hurting. I'm on the Ag Committee. Certainly I need to know how our agriculture community, how they're faring, so that we can make policies at the state level that either help them or hurt them even less and not impact them as much negatively. We know on that, the Ag Committee, we don't, think about the Ag Committee dealing with mental health, but we have, had to set up because we know that farmers are committing suicide at some of the highest rates in this country. Yep. And we allocated funds to the Department of Agriculture to set up a special hotline for that. So we need to know, are we setting enough funds aside to keep that running? How are we doing on that? Because we need to hear, we can't just make assumptions. We have to hear from farmers. We have to hear from small business owners. How are you being impacted so that we can best decide on that? And I will say, in tariffs, they have a place in this country. I represent an area that the sugar industry is by and large there because we put a long time ago tariffs to protect an industry that was already thriving in this country. And that is an absolute great use of tariffs, to protect something where we have that manufacturing base. And yes, we all want to see manufacturing come back into this country, but we also know that you need to do it in a strategic way. And willy-nilly, this day it's this, tomorrow it's that. We always hear in committees, in the Labor Committee all the time, businesses tell us we need to know what the playing field is going to be going forward so that we can make these long-term determinations on our business. And we're not even talking, we're talking day to day, like the wind blows a different direction and it's a different policy. And it is no way for our businesses to operate in Minnesota and to hear, the personal struggles. We have ideas, but always putting that personal face on that is going to stick with me and when we make these policy decisions. So thank you for coming and sharing your story today. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Senator Marty.
Madam Chair, yes, thank you. And Ms. Beneke, first, congratulations on your SBA Small Business Owner Award. I think you're wishing instead of an award, you'd have the stability. But I had a question. You had mentioned tariffs went from 0 to 140%?
145.
145, and you said right now there are 30. How many times have you seen changes in the things you're importing in the last year? Have you seen, have those been the changes, those 3 from 0 to 145 to 30, or is it been other ones where you're hearing something else?
Ms. Beneke?
From February 2nd till April 7th, the tariff rate changed 5 times. It stayed at 145 for 7 weeks, at which point it then came down to 30% for 90 days, where there was a pause for negotiations. At the end of that 90 days, it was extended yet again. In that time, there's been several conversations between our country and China over trade policies, with lots of speculation of what could happen, lots of promises of a framework has been reached. People like me who manufacture their own goods just want to know what is the policy so we can plan. Because right now there's, I think it was a month ago, a threat came across a social media platform of, I might just double the tariff because of whatever temper tantrum was happening at the time. We just need to know what is the policy and is it going to be long-term? Because as a business owner, we create a business plan, and that plan usually goes out at least 1 year, usually longer. But when I don't know what my costs are going to be, I've now lost my contract with Target. I just literally got into Target in March, and they are not renewing me for next year because I can't guarantee them pricing, because I don't know what my pricing is going to be. And when I sign that contract, I'm locked in for a year. So if my cost of goods goes up, if I had to produce more for Target right now, I'm probably going to run out of what I have promised them for this year. Oh well, because if I make more, I will lose money on every single item I sell to Target, because now my cost has gone up considerably and it's not worked into that cost structure.
Madam Chair, Senator Kupek's point, the uncertainty, I think, from business owners, that's the one thing I hear more than anything is, yeah, you don't know, and it's just kind of a whim. Today it doubles and it goes down and then it stays the same for so long. Thank you.
Ms. Beneke, thank you so much for coming today. Your story is just, you're so good at telling it, but it is not just your story. It is hundreds of entrepreneurs across the country. And I will say my husband worked in this space for over a decade, where he produced gaming figures and supplies and things like that in Taiwan, because he tried to buy the machines here. We could get the machines to make it, but we couldn't get the actual plastic that was needed to manufacture it. We could only import that. And it's more expensive to import the raw material than it is to have it produced over there and then sent. And so, you know, I totally agree with you. Like, we want to support a business like yours. We would love to have it be able to be manufactured here in the United States, but other policies have to change to make that possible. Ms. Beneke.
I'd like to just add to that point. As part of my due diligence all summer, I have a 10,000 square foot vacant warehouse space in my building in Zumbrota. So I looked into creating my own factory. The total cost of the machinery, if I bought it from China for all the equipment I would need, was about $800,000, but now you have to add the tariff on top of that. The equipment I could get from Germany was about double the cost. In the end, it would have taken me about 18 months to fully set up manufacturing. It would have cost around $4 million. And I would still have to find people who have the expertise to run the equipment that is not commonly used in the US, which is all, I mean, I had a baby and came up with an idea for a baby product. I was a corporate employee. I was a military veteran. I don't know how to do any of that. So not only do I not have the money, I don't have the expertise, but I do agree there is a place for tariffs, and there has always been a successful use of tariffs, because the things that we can and do make in the U.S., we should absolutely tariff the crap out of it so that we encourage people to continue to make and buy and use those things in the U.S. Products like mine, I would make this here if I could. Yeah. I would absolutely make it here if I could. I worked for 1.5 years when I started the business with a factory north of the cities. They used a chemist at the U of M to try to create a raw material that would be safe for babies, because the imported material is so expensive. I have tried, and I would do it in a heartbeat, but right now, I just simply can't.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. We really appreciate it. Okay. Members, we will move on to Peter Schwager from Prairie Point Farms. Peter, if you can, oh, I see you are on camera. If you can just introduce yourself for the record and then present your testimony.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Port and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Peter Schwegel, and I farm with my wife, Ann, in Big Stone County, and also have the privilege of serving as the president of Big Stone County Farmers Union. Right now, on our farm, we primarily raise row crops, such as corn and soybeans, but we also rotate in a variety of other grain crops, such as wheat, kernza, and winter camelina. I appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you today to discuss some of the impacts we're seeing on our farm from the current administration's trade policy. To put it simply, federal policy has emphasized the feeling of uncertainty that has been following us around all year. As farmers, we're of course used to a certain level of uncertainty in our lives. Our livelihoods are often at the whims of forces beyond our control, such as weather, global input, and commodity markets. To counteract those risks, we hope to have consistent and reliable partners at the local, state, and federal level. This year, however, federal administration has only added layers of unpredictability to our decision-making. The wild swings in tariff policy, or even threats of changes to tariff policy, have very real consequences to our farm. Tariffs on steel and other industrial components have added costs to already overpriced farm equipment and led us to delay new equipment purchases because they are now wildly unaffordable. Heated trade disputes and rhetoric between Canada and the US have turned Canadian potash fertilizer, which supplies most of the potassium fertilizer needs here in the US, into a bargaining chip and led to price increases. I was actually just at my local fertilizer co-op meeting last week and heard very clearly that our fertilizer suppliers are nervous about potential incoming tariffs on potash and that we should book fertilizer as soon as possible. I may end up doing that and feel fortunate that my farm has the cash flow to be able to make that purchase right now. For farms that don't have cash available, they will either have to draw money from operating loans that still have fairly high interest rates, or wait until closer to spring when fertilizer prices are predicted to go higher. Either scenario is a loss for operations that are already staring at break-even or negative margins for the upcoming year. On top of these elevated input costs, we've also been dealing with decreased and unpredictable prices for our crops. Most notably, the administration's trade and tariff disputes with China have led to major problems for the soybean industry. Historically, 1 in 3 rows of soybeans in Minnesota are exported to China. And until recently, China has refused to buy US soybeans. China has theoretically agreed to start buying soybeans again, and that is beginning. However, the pace has been slower than promised and could disappear again at any minute as both sides seek to gain leverage in trade discussions. That ensuing drop in soybean prices has led to soybeans being priced at or below most farms' cost of production. Now, of course, soybean commodity markets don't exist in a vacuum. Depressed soybean market also has an impact on the other grain markets and drags the other commodities down with it. On our farm, this means that our grain bins are full of unsold crop that we can really only hope will increase in value as trade relations potentially improve. So clearly the increases in input costs and decreases in crop prices has put stress on our farm finances. While I have to say I am encouraged by upcoming improvements in federal crop insurance programs and the announced one-time aid payments, we still don't really have a clear sense of when this kind of underlying economic situation has any hope of improving. As a result, farmers have few choices other than to tighten our belts, stop investing in our farm and equipment, and hope we can survive the storm. In the meantime, to all of you, we are going to lean more heavily on state programs that are successfully supporting farmers. Minnesota Farm Business Management Program is an absolutely critical tool that we use on our farm to make accurate and informed financial decisions in these uncertain times. For farms that do find themselves in financial crisis, the Farmer Lender Mediation Program can be the difference between foreclosure and staying on the land. Unfortunately, it appears that many farms are finding themselves in that situation, with Farmer Lender Mediation notices in November of 2025 up tenfold over last year. We are also leaning on several innovative and frankly nation-leading state conservation programs, such as the Minnesota Ag Water Quality Certification Program and the Soil Health Equipment Grant Program, to push our conservation and farm efficiency goals forward, even while we face poor net profits. Finally, we continue to search for new profitable crops and marketing opportunities through the Forever Green program by incorporating winter camelina into our crop rotation. Those are just a few examples of state programs that we are appreciative of and hope you can continue to support. With that, I'll say thank you for your time and attention on these critical issues. Happy to take questions if you have them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schwegel. I appreciate the highlighting of the programs that are working for you and other farmers across the state. I think that's exactly the kind of information that it's helpful for these committee meetings to highlight, so we know going into next year what we can do as a state to really help in these situations. I have one question, and then will ask if other members have questions, but when you're in a situation like this where you don't know what the future looks like, how do you plan for what you're going to plant?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, most farmers are in the thick of planning right now. This is where we're evaluating last year and making predictions for next year. I think we just simply have to make very conservative projections. We know where crop prices are at now. We know what our input prices are. And we just need to plan as best we can. We're still primarily, going to be planting corn and soybeans, but we're looking to try to just make that operation as efficient as we can. So limiting fertilizer inputs, possibly selling some of our equipment lineup to free up cash flow and equity. We just have to sit down, make that plan with our farm business management instructor, and execute as best we can once the year kicks in.
Thank you. Members, questions? Senator Kupek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I'll just make a quick comment, just a thank you from me as well, to hear that those programs that we've worked through the Ag Committee and through the Senate are working for you are really helpful. And I also think it also highlights the need going forward for more diversification of crops, something that we're really working on, trying to find new markets here locally within the state for ag products, and the work that the University of Minnesota is doing to develop more crops to give our farmers more options to make it easier to weather the weather changes that come within the farm economy. So thank you for your work.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate your time today. Next, we will have County Commissioner and Farmer Teresia Gilly.
Hello, Chair Port and members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to address all of you today. I'm Teresa Gilly. I'm a soybean and wheat farmer in Kittson County, the very northwestern county. And by the way, it's not a very nice day up here today. I am a Kittson County Commissioner and past president of the Minnesota Soybean Growers. I currently serve as vice president of our Kittson County chapter of Minnesota Farmers Union, and I have been a lifelong Minnesotan. Back when I was elected president of Minnesota Soybean Growers back in 2016, 3 out of every 5 rows of soybeans went out the Pacific Northwest and was sold to China and Southeast Asia. Even with the talks of tariffs back in 2017, our buyers started looking elsewhere. Our markets fell dramatically. My husband and I talked about stopping farming. But one morning, my husband killed himself. And I live with that every day. Every soybean grower contributes to the soybean checkoff, along with every corn grower, every cattle producer, every wheat grower. Every sugar beet grower pays into a checkoff. In soybeans, 0.5% of every grain check is contributed to this checkoff. Many of these dollars through the years have been used to invest in new markets and expand our old ones. We consider this an investment into our industry to ensure that we can rely on these customers to purchase Minnesota soy or our other egg products to keep our market stable, not just for us, but for generations to come. We understood a long time ago that the federal government wasn't going to have funds to continue to expand the market, so we were going to make sure that us farmers were going to meet our international partners and invite them to our farms. We wanted to show our buyers that we grow safe and reliable grain for them and their livestock. I was in the White House for the signing of the China trade agreement in January of 2020. After the signing, since the signing, we still have not reached the capacity of the most we were able to claim back was maybe 2 out of every 5 rows of soy in Minnesota. The tariffs that China has left, the tariffs that we experienced earlier this year, China has left our market and has purchased no soy. In November, the U.S. government had an agreement with China to purchase 12 million metric tons before the end of the year. Our market started to climb, but when China did not execute their bargain, the markets have fallen another $1. During harvest this year, our basis, which has a lot to do with demand and sales, was over $1 a bushel more for soybeans than it was a year ago. Being that I'm a wheat farmer, we went from a positive 25-cent basis in 2024 to a negative 40 to 50-cent basis during harvest this year for wheat. On my farm, I spent more on fertilizer this last year than I ever have. Now there are talks, according to Bloomberg, that it has been mentioned that there may be tariffs on Canadian fertilizer again. I know that we are getting this bridge payment to be received sometime the end of February. I know my bridge payment does not even match what I should have received on the market. And now there is more talks of tariffs on the supplies we desperately need to have a successful farming operation. And the cost of farm parts to keep our used equipment is painful. The need for the support for our farm business managers and our rural mental health counselors like Monica McConkey and our state farm mediators is going to be great this winter. As farmers look at their return on their farm and yields, there just won't be enough funds to pay for all their operating equipment and land payments, let alone living costs and health insurance. All of these issues are causing great stress on our ag community, especially our young producers. I remember being exactly where they are now, and I will tell you that they are very aware of their finances. But back when my husband and I were struggling, when we first started farming, our health insurance only ran about $125 a month, not $2,500 a month. Agriculture is the largest industry that we have here in Kitson County, with mandated programs not getting funded through the administration and passed down through the state and then down to the county. Us as county commissioners, we have only one way to pay for these costs: real estate taxes. So our farmers are getting hit on that angle also. I'm also a county commissioner. Locally, there have been more asked by our local food shelves and North Country Food Bank and the needs for the communities. We have an organization called Holiday Helpers, which our staff from social services leads up and has many volunteers and asks for donations for our local children off of the little trees that they put up around our community. There is a bigger need here than ever before. There are also more families in need and less with more extra funds to also help. The SNAP funding also supports our local grocery store and we have many residents on these programs in our community. The prices at our local grocery stores are not going down. I feel sorry for our young families and for the elderly who do not have the resources to purchase all of what they need. There is no Walmart or Target here. The closest Walmart is 60 miles away at Thief River Falls. Our local hospital is running on a federal deficit. Our local medical hospital, which also includes our nursing home and our clinic and our pharmacy, has asked me for a letter of support to get some more funding. Medicaid and PPS rates have not been keeping up with the costs. My local hospital cannot cut anymore. I've been to the board meeting and they physically cannot cut any more costs. What do we do if we lose our hospital? There will be no emergency room. Thank you for listening to me, and I will take any questions that you may ask.
Members, questions? Commissioner, thank you so much for telling this story. I think I am really grateful for the way that you laid out that it is not just one thing that is happening here. It is sort of a confluence of a whole bunch of things happening all at the same time. Talking about losing the soybean market in China, the tariffs, the loss of stability in that market, having your county also facing increased admin costs for, SNAP benefits, things like that. Insurance costs going up. I'm sure with agriculture being your county's biggest job market, I'm sure most of those farmers are buying on that individual market. So seeing those costs going up the most of any sort of sector of people. And then also those rural healthcare cuts, which we know our rural hospitals are just in a critical place. And I think sharing how much that all combines piece by piece by piece is really important for us to understand. I am glad, that the farm mediation program and our investment in mental health, particularly in rural communities, is, will be a help this winter. But it's clear that the way that you have shared this, there are many different aspects of this that we need to look at to see how we can help communities like yours survive these really drastic across the board cuts from our federal partners. So thank you very much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Members, we will move to Friendly Vang Johnson, who is here in the room. Ms. Vang Johnson, if you would just introduce yourself once you're settled in and present your testimony when you're ready.
Thank you and good morning. Honorable Chairperson Port and members of the Select Subcommittee. My name is Friendly Vang Johnson, and I'm here to humbly testify on behalf of local small-scale farmers, thousands of whom belong to the 400-plus farmers markets found all across Minnesota. I serve as the Director of Government Affairs for the Minnesota Association Farmers Markets. Our mission and vision is to grow more farmers markets to feed more communities. We are accomplishing this mission and this vision by expanding the traditional role of farmers markets to include multi-pronged educational programs for markets and vendors, becoming a licensed food buyer ourselves to facilitate the aggregation of food from farmers to food shelves, wholesale, retail buyers, partnering with our allies to translate our materials into multiple languages to better serve the next generation of food farmers and cottage food producers. I'm also the daughter of Hmong refugee farmers who have been continuously farming in Minnesota for more than 40 years. You can find my family's vegetables, herbs, fruits at metro area farmers markets during the growing season. These are the crops that all Minnesotans buy. Your dill for pickling, your rhubarb for your pies, the zucchini for your bread. That's my parents. My parents are among the thousands of local small-scale farmers who ensure that regeneratively grown, culturally specific, highly nutritious produce is abundantly available at affordable prices in Minnesota. And over the years, the next few years, I hope to take over my family's business. And I will also disclose that I'm also one of your 8 or 9 farmer advocates through the Minnesota Department of Agriculture that you all help to fund. And so I'm also out there providing technical assistance to farmers, trying to meet them where they're at, help them build their business plans, also trying to help prevent suicide, address mental health needs by making sure that they're connected with service providers. So before I get into my testimony on how tariffs and inflation have harmed local small-scale farmers, I'd like to take you on just a moment of your time to recall the last time you were at a farmer's market. Who was with you? Maybe your best friend, maybe a grandchild. How did you feel seeing that farmer, that maker behind the table, proudly offering something that they had produced, whether it's that they had grown, that they had pickled, that they had baked perhaps, offering that to you. And you probably took in the sight of beautiful flowers. Maybe you took some rhubarb for pie making. So what you're recollecting is the essence of farmers markets and local small-scale farmers markets. These are places and people, ancient, modern hubs, not only of economic activity, but also of community and culture. So when I share with you how tariffs and inflation have harmed local small-scale farmers, please bear in mind what's at stake. It's not simply increased expenses and lower profits. It's about the viability of a Minnesota way of life, the Minnesota food shed, and our Minnesota neighbors, friends, and families. Earlier this year, when tariffs were imposed, many focused on the impact of commodity crop export sales, understandably so, as you've heard from 2 of our other witnesses. Less attention was paid to our local small-scale farmers who sell direct to local consumers at farmers markets instead of foreign countries. Now, make no mistake, these farmers are still going to feel the impact of tariffs because input costs will rise on necessary farm equipment, supplies, and tools. Farm businesses like ours, we must maintain and repair our work and personal vehicles that require parts manufactured some or wholly in other countries. We must also, from time to time, buy that new toaster and microwave. And many everyday necessities are manufactured in other countries, and the demand for these necessities are as inelastic for us as they are for everyone else. Tariffs contribute to the already inflationary prices that we have seen steadily creeping up since the pandemic. And while we all, as the general public, experience inflation when we fill our gas tanks and buy these household goods, the impact of inflation is exponentially worse for our small-scale local farmers. Farmers cannot simply cut back on our outings or switch to public transportation to minimize costs. Fuel is needed to commute to the farm. Many of our small-scale farmers, we live in the urban or suburban core, and when we're transporting or we're commuting back and forth out to our farms, we need fuel to drive our tractors, heat our greenhouses, operate coolers, fill the tanks of heavy-duty vehicles necessary to transport that fresh produce to market. Insurance on farmland, vehicles, liability, they've all gone up. Moreover, tariffs and the threats thereof and rising inflation are occurring just as infrastructure and technology investments are desperately needed for farmers to mitigate, address the impacts of climate change. We have all witnessed over the past week the devastating floods in Western Washington. Small-scale farmers there have incurred losses into the tunes of millions. It's simply a matter of time before the next catastrophic event induced by climate change hits Minnesota. With these rising input costs, why don't local small-scale farmers just increase the prices that they charge at markets, you might ask? Because we are part of the communities that we work in. Our farmers choose to bear most of these higher input costs instead of passing them along to customers. We're not faraway corporate executives. We are your neighbors. Our farmers are used to feeding our communities, using our bodies and our minds to bring you that bounty, and our farmers understand the valuable and integral role of accessible, culturally specific food for our customers and sense of belonging and dignity. Many of them participate in the SNAP Market Bucks Farmers Market Nutrition Program, Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, the LFPA. We are there ensuring that our most vulnerable Minnesotans are not only fed, but nourished. Local small-scale farmers are talented, generous, they're full of grit. There's been a lot of platitudes, genuine gratitude also to them, but our local food shed is neither secure nor resilient if we aren't looking out for our farmers. We have to recognize the death by 1,000 paper cuts that tariffs and rising inflation incurs. Finally, I want to underscore the fact that many of you already know, farmers are aging out. My own parents, for example, are 70, 75. In order for Minnesota to attract the next generation of talented, generous, and full of grit farmers, like my daughters, today's local small-scale farmers and farmers markets must be supported to aspire to be a farmer. Our youth and middle-agers like me, we must see it as a viable career option. We must also be a welcoming place for refugees and immigrants like we were 50 years ago for Hmong farmers who are now farmers in the tune of hundreds of families across Minnesota. So as I close out, please just take a moment and imagine if 10 years from now, that place that you had once visited, that vibrant, bustling farmers market, there instead sits empty, vacant stalls. And that place that once brimmed with economic, social, and cultural vitality has diminished to this distant, opaque memory. And I urge this body to take whatever action you can so that that is not what we leave behind for the next generation. Tariff wars and rising inflation cannot be tolerated. We are quickly heading into a moment of stagflation if we're not already over there. We've got more than 1 million people who have been laid off this year. These are man-made structural problems, and they require structural solutions that can only be accomplished if you all, as our Minnesota legislators, come together and recognize the folly of this poor policy and counter it. We must protect local economies, local food shed, local small-scale farmers. Thank you for listening and caring about and for our farmers.
Thank you so much for your testimony. I will say I have an 11, almost 12-year-old who discovered farmers markets this year, and it was like the thing that she wanted to do. Like, can we go to farmers markets on the weekend? Can we go find a new one? And really seeing the variety across the state of Minnesota of what people are growing, what people are able to bring into their communities. And you know, I am really glad that a few years ago we extended market bucks so folks can use their SNAP benefits at farmers markets. And I think that's a concern I also have as we're seeing or estimating that people will lose SNAP benefits, that fewer of those dollars will go to those farmers markets and will hurt those markets and those farmers, as well as some of that those customers just simply can't afford to shop there as well. But I think, you know, much as we're hearing with everybody else, how do folks plan at this moment as they're thinking about next year with just the uncertainty?
They are hoping for the best and planning for the worst, but I have to tell you that our small-scale local farmers, they have already bought their seeds. They have already paid for their leases. They have paid for their market stalls. They are planning on showing up. And you're going to see us in full force next year, just as you did last year. We are going to be that stopgap. We are going to be there, you know, if things go sideways and those grocery stores run empty, we're going to be there, and your cottage food makers, your grandmas who are pickling those cucumbers, making the chili sauces, all those Minnesota makers, restaurateurs, they can turn to us because we are, again, very, very talented and very generous, and we're going to make sure that our Minnesotans are fed.
Thank you so much. Members, other questions? Okay, thank you. We will move to our final testifier today from the Minnesota Grocers Association and former representative, Pat Garofalo. Welcome to the committee. If you want to just introduce yourself for the record and then present your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Super. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Patrick Garofalo. I'm president of the Minnesota Grocers Association. The Minnesota Grocers Association has been around for 128 years and is a statewide trade organization that represents Minnesota's entire food industry from farm to fork. And thank you for the opportunity to testify before your committee. Madam Chair, members of the committee, many of the things I was going to say have been covered, but I will just emphasize a couple of those items. First is that tariffs are, in fact, tax increases. They are tax increases that increase costs onto businesses, which then pass those costs on to our customers and to consumers. And like any item that increases costs, this worsens affordability. So whether it's anything that makes things more expensive for your local independent grocers, whether it's higher insurance premiums, higher energy prices, higher tariffs, all of these are items that are transferred on to consumers and impact affordability. A favorite line that I've heard others say, and it's worth repeating, is that your small businesses do not pay taxes, they collect them. And so whether it's tariffs or other items, those are things that drive up and impact affordability. The second concern we have with these policies is, second of all, that tariffs have kicked off an unbalanced trade war, which has been particularly damaging in the state of Minnesota. So businesses located across northern Minnesota that rely on Canadian consumers, also the integration of Minnesota and Canada's economies, whether it be energy, fertilizer, and others, have increased our price inputs at the same time that we have seen less consumption or less resources available for purchasing. And third and finally, with regards to the disruption in tariff policies, it's important to understand that this has built even more uncertainty into the business decisions that you heard. Previously, you heard eloquently from a testifier who was in the manufacturing space talking about planning for both the short term and the long term. But in the food industry, everyone eats. And so many times what has happened is when they're planning on making purchases at the wholesale level, those are higher costs, which are passed down to your independent grocers across the state. Finally, Madam Chair, what I would say is that it's important for members of the committee to understand that these decisions do not happen and the effects of these policies are not micro in nature. They affect our entire state. So as a reminder, the Minnesota Grocers Association, we don't represent Walmart, we don't represent Costco or Sam's Club. We are your regional and independent grocery store owners. And what we are seeing is that with increased cost pressures, not only, it wouldn't be fair to blame it just on tariffs, but tariffs and other items are causing what I call the Walmartization of grocery stores in Minnesota. Just in the last year, we've seen 2 grocery stores close in St. Paul. We've seen one that was announced that is closing next week in West St. Paul. But it would be a mistake to think that these problems are only in the metro or urban areas. In fact, there's a grocery store closing this year down in Faribault County in southern Minnesota. And all of these share the same concerns on creating food deserts. And so surprisingly, at a time when there's polar and political divides, we see that the concerns regarding food deserts that you hear in urban areas are the very same ones you hear in low-density rural areas. So in closing, Madam Chair, I just want to remind everyone that everyone eats and that when policies make food more expensive, not only does it destroy affordability for those who are purchasing it, it also leads to additional consolidation and fewer independent grocery stores in Minnesota. And Minnesota's independent grocery network is one of the strongest in the nation. We want to preserve and protect that going forward. So thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to testify, and I'm happy to take any questions, supportive or hostile, from your committee. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Rasmussen, we'll see which way this one goes, Mr. Garofalo.
Madam Chair, except for from Senator Rasmussen, I don't want to take any questions from him. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Garofalo. What should the legislature do next session to help out small businesses, to help consumers with higher costs? What do you see as some items that we should focus on here at the state capitol?
Mr. Garofalo.
Well, Madam Chair and Senator Rasmussen, I want to make sure that I answer your question in a way that makes everyone like me and like the Minnesota grocers, as opposed to perhaps disliking my answer. So I would give 2 answers. The first is, I think, with regards to this committee on the federal level, we would be wise to contact our federal elected officials and to let them know that the tariff policies that are being enacted are in fact causing economic damage from an affordability standpoint and consolidation. That's bad for Minnesota and the entire food supply chain, from from production to distribution and consumption by our consumers. The second thing is I would just ask members on a bipartisan basis to understand that the strengths of large international corporations are different than the strengths that exist for small businesses. And so when you're a large corporation, you have the benefit of being able to vertically integrate and get economies of scale to deliver things more efficiently. Small businesses, independent grocers, they have the strategic strength of being able to be more flexible and nimble, respond and adjust to market changes, be more representative of their community as opposed to a nationwide brand. And when the state or federal government imposes mandates from a cost or requirements standpoint, whether it's staffing or labor mandates, those disproportionately impact small businesses more than large businesses. And so we would ask that members of both sides of the aisle work together on some of the labor mandates that have been put into effect, but also the big one that's going into effect January 1st, is to please understand that an operation with 10 employees is much more impacted by this than an operation with 10,000 employees. Walmart can take the paid family leave mandate and they can distribute that cost across their $800 billion massive international footprint. Small businesses have fewer options. It takes away their nimble and flexible nature. So those would be the two things we would ask for is please lobby your federal officials to change the policies on tariffs, and please work together to account for the fact that small businesses are affected differently by labor mandates than large businesses.
Senator Marty.
Madam Chair, thank you, and Mr. Garofalo, good to see you. Not any punchy political point, but just a question. You mentioned that Minnesota has more independent grocers than most states, which strikes me as true from experience. But you said 3 or 4 of you mentioned are closing down or have closed down recently. What kind of numbers do we have in terms of independent grocery stores, and how much is that? How fast is that declining? Because I'm scared about, as you said, the food deserts.
Mr. Garofalo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Senator Marty. Good to see you as well, Senator. You have to understand that when I use the term independent grocer, that's not something that that's not a category that the government would collect in terms of inventory. Walmart is different than Lunds & Byerly's or Kowalski's. What I would say is that while we have a strong network, there's increasing pressure. And I could not give you a specific number on the number of stores that have closed, but I did highlight for you early on the pressures that are taking place. I think we're all familiar with, or most of us are familiar with the store that closed in Midway, as well as one in downtown St. Paul. And then maybe not as well known as that a branch closed up in the Brainerd Lakes area. And so what I would say is, just as a general term, rather than giving Senator Marty, rather than providing specific numbers because I don't have them, is I would say that there is additional pressure that is taking place, and there's multiple reasons for that, right? So what I would say is that the ice is getting thinner, and we're beginning to see cracks, and this is overall affordability concerns impact those independent grocers more than the large ones. But Senator Marty, I can't give you a specific number of how many have closed or where we're at. It's just that there is additional pressure, and what the legislature in Minnesota and what members of Congress do or do not do significantly impacts that. I think hopefully everyone agrees that we do not want to see a Walmartization of the food sector in Minnesota.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Garofalo, for your testimony. We appreciate it and appreciate the grocers' input multiple times through this conversation as we've been studying these impacts. It was incredibly helpful to understand how much of the market share in grocery stores is from SNAP holders, SNAP dollars that goes into grocery stores across the state, and as we see sort of a constriction of those dollars as well. We will stay closely in touch with you and with the grocers as we move into session.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, final comments. Senator Utke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I waited till we were done with Mr. Garofalo because although I did like one of his comments that I picked up on, and that kind of goes with what I'm following up with here too. And his comment was, we need to contact our federal partners. And this whole fall, for over 3 months, we've sat here, and I will call it once again, political theater, whining about what the federal government is doing. And that's all we've been doing. And I mean, we had some very good stories. I mean, it's good to learn from these people that have been with us today and at other meetings too. But the fact remains, this is a federal issue. We are here in the state of Minnesota. So my next question, or to follow up with that to you, Madam Chair, is we're hearing all these things. Again, it's a federal issue, but what are the goals of our committee? What are we going to take from this, and what are we going to do, I guess, in the month of January, getting ready for session? Are we planning to take this data and come up with a plan, or I guess I'm wanting to know, what are our goals?
Thank you, Senator Utke. As we've discussed multiple times throughout the course of this committee, the goal of this committee is to hear from Minnesotans on the realities of the impacts of federal policies so that we have that information moving into next session to plan. We have repeatedly discussed the fact that Nonpartisan is preparing reports on each of the 2-week subject matters that we have addressed through this, and those reports will go not only to these committee members, but also to the chairs of the relevant committees. In most of the site visits and committees that we've held, I know on our side at least, our chairs and committee members on those particular topics are watching, are learning, and they're already hard at work. I know many of our members are working on, have been working throughout interim on legislation, and the goal of this committee is to provide them with the information that they need so that as we move into next session, which is a very short session, that we already can hit the ground running to understand what Minnesotans are asking for us to do for them at this moment. Senator Utke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, I think it's a good idea if we take what we've learned and do something with it. But the part that kind of always rubs me wrong is, just like we started out the meeting today, whining about President Trump's speech last night. That's not part of our committee. If we're going to stay on task on how federal bills, this, the HR 1 was a large bill. If we're going to talk about pieces of that bill and how it affects Minnesota, I think that's good. That keeps us on task. But too many times we get off talking about somebody's political views, what somebody doesn't like about the speech, maybe I liked. But either way, I don't think that helps us in this committee. We should be staying focused on really what is affecting Minnesotans, whether it's individuals or businesses. And I would hope that that's the approach that we focus on and take as we move into the new year. So I appreciate that, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the big issues that I'm hearing about from Minnesotans, we're seeing about in the news, is this massive human services fraud that's affecting our state. More than $1 billion has been stolen from taxpayers. And I've been disappointed that we haven't seen Senate Democrats hold a single hearing on that topic that is challenging the core confidence of Minnesotans in their state government. We are seeing federal impacts of our fraud problem, whether it is in returns to CDL licenses that were given out that shouldn't, threatening potential transportation dollars, whether it's the confidence of key partners at CMS in our ability to protect federal dollars that are sent to the state of Minnesota. And so, Chair Port, wanted to ask you if you're willing to have our next hearing for this subcommittee focused on human services fraud, given the important nexus with the federal government and funding that Minnesota gets from the federal government.
Thank you, Senator Rasmussen. The jurisdiction of this committee is to, look at the federal impacts, not the state Department of Human Services. We have also already had committee hearings on SNAP and Medicaid and the county programs that our Department of Human Services runs to understand those. I know you weren't able to attend those, but we have looked at several of those issues. I will also point out that our Human Services Committee has been working all interim with the Department of Human Services, with CMS, conversations with the admin and the Minnesotans to do the work of getting it right. I know they haven't held specific hearings because our chair and his wife were shot 17 times this summer, but they have been doing that work. Senator McQuaid has spent hours and hours in those meetings, along with all of the other DFL members of the Human Services Committee. This committee's charge, again, I know you haven't been able to attend most of the meetings, is to understand from Minnesota what's going on at the federal level and how those impacts are reaching them. I'm certain if you reach out to your colleagues on the Human Services Committee, they're having those meetings. They're doing that work. If you'd like to attend, I'm certain that they would welcome you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to address your comments, the majority of the time when I've missed this committee is because I also serve on the Capital Investment Committee and have been serving in that capacity. But Madam Chair, it seems to me that addressing human services fraud is an important piece of work before Minnesotans. It's an important piece of work for us in the upcoming legislative session. It affects federal funding, it affects our federal partners. And I just worry, Madam Chair, that it seems like what the scope of this committee is complaining about Washington instead of holding the Walz administration accountable for their major failures that they've had to protect taxpayer dollars. And Senate Republicans, we're going to continue to focus on the work that we can do here in St. Paul to help Minnesotans to address this human services fraud crisis, and would appreciate if Senate Democrats would be willing to join in that work and to have an open hearing process where members of the public can see what ideas are being prepared for session so that we can have a thorough vetting and hit the ground running come February.
Madam Chair, yeah, I very much have concerns about fraud and everything else. I just keep thinking now when Ramsey County, the county I live in, they're telling us all these new things they have to do that aren't doing anything about fraud, but requirements the federal government have, and we're trying to ask them to put more work into addressing fraud. I guess I just think that that's a distraction from it. I don't think there's any member of this committee, I hope not this legislature, who is not concerned about fraud. I just think that that doesn't mean what we're doing here is not also valuable, because this is the point of this committee was to talk about how these other things impact our constituents. And again, I mean, Senator Utke's point about we shouldn't be complaining about what the president says in a speech. I am concerned about some of the words used, but I'm concerned about the policies and what it's doing. When you have grocers say that, well, the one business said how her tariffs have gone 5 changes in 3 months and then up and down. I just think that all these impacts on the economy are going to cause real chaos. And yes, our job is to address all of those impacts of the economy, including fraud issues, which I think we've done some good issues, some good work on that, and there's more to be done. But I don't see how saying, oh, there's fraud, means we shouldn't be looking at the whole pictures of everything. And again, I've carried some bills. I've worked on fraud prevention. I care very deeply about that. But I think that that doesn't mean we shouldn't also be looking at all these other impacts that are really sticking it to a lot of our constituents. And I think a lot of constituents are desperate. And they don't see things getting better. They see it getting worse. And they can't get employees. People are staying home because they're scared of getting picked up. All these issues are huge impacts on our constituents. I'm just worried about overall the economy, what that's going to do for our state budget next year when we're supposed to be trying to fix these things. And fraud is part of that, and very much a high priority. And I don't think there's anybody here who doesn't say it's something we have to be doing and doing better at. And that's why we've been trying for the last several years to try and improve the process, and we have more to do.
Thank you, Senator Marty. Senator Kupek?
Sure, I'll just make one last comment on that too. You know, I think we last year, as a Minnesota State Senate, Senator Gustafson had an Inspector General bill that was excellent bipartisan work. It was presented in every committee with a Democrat and a Republican sitting at the table, and I think as the Minnesota Senate, both Democrats and Republicans, we should be pretty proud of that bill that we put forward. And I hope that going into this session, we as this body, you know, press the other body to get that bill passed. I think that would have been a really good step forward. That had teeth, that had legal ability, that had subpoena power. We could drag people in front of a committee, but boy, if you get somebody with subpoena power, that could really do, I think, really help get to the bottom of it and be a non-partisan, separated from anybody else, their own jurisdiction to get that work done. And I think that was a really good bill, and we've done a few other things too, but I think that in alone would be a crucial part. And I will say, you're right, you know, I don't often like delving into like national politics and all that, and I do like focusing on that, but I do think, you know, Senator Port at the beginning, when the president's speech last night, which was in some places just completely like factually, I don't even know his style or anything, just factually out there. As somebody, you know, with an atmospheric science background, like, what is the color of the sky in the world you are living in? Because it was just, it was, I think if you just say these things aren't happening, that doesn't mean it's not happening. We just heard a whole group of Minnesotans come in before us and tell us how these are the things that they are feeling, and bringing not just feelings but facts with them on the ground that are completely contradictory to what we heard from, you know, the leader of this country last night.
Thank you, Senator Kupek. Members, before I give my final comments, just a few housekeeping pieces. This is the last hearing for this year. I hope members have a good and safe break and are able to spend some time in your communities. We will come back in January before staff leaves for the end of the year. Those calendar holds, they might actually already be on your calendars, but if not, they will be before we leave for the end of the year. And we are grateful again to all of the testifiers who came in today to share your stories. Just a couple of things quickly. I just want to say that, you know, fact checking and calling out the gaslighting and outright lies of the President of the United States is not whining. It's honesty. And I don't think it would be called whining if we had a male chair and we had male business owners here today. But I can't help thinking today that we are right in the middle of Hanukkah and a week away from Christmas. It's gift-giving season for most families across our state, and it should be a time of joy and connection. It's also a time when business owners, farmers, and families are looking ahead and planning their next year's budget. And this week, they're not feeling a lot of joy. As we had testifiers in here today, both of our business owners had tears in their eyes and struggled to contain their fears of what is coming for their businesses. Our farmers talked about suicide rates increasing. Those are things that you wouldn't expect out of a hearing based on affordability for people around the holidays. What's worse is that our president is telling us that our economic anxiety isn't real. And that it doesn't matter. They're on one hand telling us that it's the best economy we've ever had, and the other hand telling us affordability is a hoax. Just yesterday, Republicans voted again against tax credits to lower the cost of health insurance for 20 million Americans next year. That includes hundreds of thousands of Minnesotans. They're seeing their costs double as we speak, many up to $1,000 a month. We know that this isn't the best economy ever. We know these problems are very real. And so do the people that we heard from today, and so do the families making difficult decisions about groceries and gifts and about the next year. And with that, I want to thank you all for joining us over the course of the last 4 months. We will see you in January Happy holidays, everyone. We are.